Radio Richard.
Lucky me, I've got aldimeola sitting right here in my studio, and he's going to play his fabulous piece, Fugata. To New Jazz Standards, aldimeola.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. The first thing I want to talk about is manifesting your music. Now, you've been known throughout your career for having a phenomenal technical skill. Now, I think it might be interesting for my listeners to hear the sheer torture and hell you went through to develop that.
Well, it was a real good beginning because I found by accident a great guitar teacher who was a jazz aficionado into the style of Barney Kessel and Howard Roberts and people along those lines, and alternate picking, and that's what he drilled, So although I was into the whole pop and rock thing, as most kids were growing up in the 60s, I absorbed all of that stuff. At the same time, I was getting lessons from a jazz instructor, learning that kind of thing as well.
So now, your music has always been sort of influenced by a European kind of sensibility, sort of gypsy, ethnic kind of stuff. Where did that all come from?
Probably, let's see, the flamenco part of it, my association with Paco it came when I was 19 from my first travel overseas with Chick Corea when I joined Chick. And when we hit Spain to do our little tour over there, there was just a buzz about this guy. And I was real interested to hear about him because most of the flamenco I heard up to that point was just traditional, and you didn't hear anybody really going out on a limb like he was, or attempting to. So, and then when I finally did get to hear him on that tour, I could see that his technique was a cut above everyone else. So I had a great interest right away to do something with him.
Did you meet him then, or was it only later when you actually started playing?
I met him very soon after. I think it was before my second record was recorded, Elegant Gypsy. We got in contact with him, and we flew him over to New York.
There are also other kind of ethnic influences in your music. Do you want to talk about any of those? I mean, apart from the flamenco thing, there seem to be a lot of like Arabic scales.
Yeah, I've always.
Into
I mean, that whole Arabic world has got such incredible depth to their music and spirit and just mystery, you know. And I was always attracted to all of it, you know, or a lot of it, especially the more modern stuff. So yeah, there's been inflections of that all the way along, you know, since going back to my second record.
Yeah,
you know,
in terms of translating all of that stuff to the guitar, I also just noticed when you were just playing, you did a kind of thing that would be typical that a flamenco player would do with his fingers. A kind of a rhythmic chordal thing, but you did it with the pick with lots of rhythmic stops, and that was really original to see that up close.
Right.
And it was a very clean way you did it, but it was really rhythmically effective. Now, did you kind of develop techniques in order to manifest these kinds of effects?
Well, I grew up in the Latin clubs in New York. I mean, I really absorbed a lot of salsa music as well. So I have now a lot of different experiences with the different forms of Latin music. And to me, they all interrelate really well. It works for me. But I also come from a background of, loving the drums and percussion. I mean, I still play a lot of that. My first love were drums, you know, so I think and feel like that kind of person, not like a guitar player so much. Most of what I base a lot of my motifs on are very rhythmic phrases. Or if I do something like from a classical player like Piazzolla, which I've been known to do in the last bunch of years, I usually play a lot with the rhythm, and I syncopate the hell out of it. I take it out of its square form.
Yes, as you did on your new album.
Yeah, like I do with almost everything now. You know, I just love syncopating rhythms, but that's something that's not easy for a lot of people to do, you know, because it usually sways the quarter note feel. So you have to have like an inner clock going on.
Yeah.
In order to do that successfully.
Again, it seems to me that you've got this thing of being able to use your analytical mind to manifest these things which are of the heart, of course. And you know, that's why I asked you how you sort of approached. You know, you must have thought at some point, okay, I want to get this flamenco thing, but I'm using a pick. So how am I going to do that? And I was interested in your thought process in doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly Raschiato, or the ability to do exactly what they do. But I'm not trying to do what they're doing either, you know, because they're so deep-rooted, you know, in tradition. You would almost have to be born there to really get it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I think I got some of the essence of the feeling of that, but it's like you can't really put your finger on it. Is it flamenco influence? Is it salsa?
Yeah.
Is it, you know? It's just, for me, it's all of the influences of Latin music, except for maybe tango, which is a Latin form of music. And in tango, you don't have so much of that kind of rhythm as you do in Brazilian or salsa, which Caribbean-oriented music,
right,
or flamenco, you know. But what I like about tango is different than what I like about those other kinds of music, you know. And all those worlds to me just, you know, feel very at home, you know.
Let's talk briefly about something else, because another thing that obviously you enjoy a lot is playing with different sounds and developing different sounds, not only with the guitar synth, but also on, you know, standard guitars, but developing different sounds with different ways of picking, different, you know, actual guitar playing techniques. Now, first of all, How did you go about thinking about developing different electric sounds and acoustic sounds?
Well, synth sounds, if I'm dealing with like a Roland GR 30 or a VG88, or I have them all. I think I have them all linked together. 33. There's even another one. I think we have 4 to 5 units linked on stage. It's like insane. And I have my legs going all over the place trying to switch, because unfortunately you can't patch together in one unit all of the sounds from each. Like if I have 2 sounds from one unit, I got to have that unit there just for those 2 sounds. It's a drag.
It is.
However, I have my favorite sounds, and most of which are in the VG88. So, for instance, on the new record, on Flesh on Flesh, some of the Les Paul sounds that I got back to again are actually my Ovation or my Godin triggering that sound.
Really?
And I've had guitar players who are fanatics for this type of sound who swore that they thought I was just joking, you know. There's no way they could believe it.
Quite unbelievable.
I said, well, you know, it's a doable thing. I mean, the Roland VG88 is amazing. It really is amazing. Thing is, I blend in the acoustic guitar sound with it for punch.
Yes, you do.
So in actuality, for me, it's actually better than the real deal. You know what I mean? I get the thickness of the acoustic, but and the articulation of that provides, and then it's with this killer Les Paul sound through a Marshall at the touch of a switch, a foot pedal, and then when I back off, I'm back to my acoustic guitar. Now this could happen with my nylon Godin, which is evidenced on the record, or my Ovation, or my jazz body guitar, which I didn't use that much of. I have 2 prototype aldimeola models made by Gibson, which are more in the Legrand fashion. You know, if you recall what a Legrand looks like. Yeah. Really nice.
So quite big body.
Big body. Kind of.
Like an L5 almost.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Super
but
400.
They're called Legrands, and they were going to make this the aldimeola model, and then they decided it's too expensive to do. One of the other guitars on the record that became important for me to use in the last bunch of years is this Conde Hermanos Spanish classical guitar. And it's just one of those guitars that you just put a mic up against and immediately you have a killer sound. Whereas opposed to electric guitars, or anything electric, you have to work on it. I mean, especially when it involves amplifiers. You really got to work.
Do you always, when you're recording in the studio, do you always go through amplifiers, or do you go through the desk and use the wide variety of plugins that are available today?
Well, no, I didn't use any of the Amp Farm plugins that you can. Some of them are pretty cool, but I'm always in the quest for a sound with punch, at in the same time getting a good tone and sustain.
Right.
And it's harder to do unless you're using an amp, you know. Direct is direct, but for sustained sounds, I got to have the sound of the speaker smashing up against the microphone.
Yes,
you know,
and our ears.
That punch. Yeah, in the ears. That's why I have ringing of the ears.
Oh, good. Well, now having seen the kind of artistry and technical skill you need to get all these sounds, the next question has got to be, do you sometimes get pissed off that when people think of, quotes, the aldimeola sound, they usually think of this screaming rock guitar?
No, that hasn't happened in a long time, because my last 15 records, primarily acoustic, you know, so since 1980 I've been doing mostly...
Yeah, that's true indeed.
Mostly acoustic, and I don't really get that one. I get more of the aldimeola equals technique.
Right. Well, what I've been trying to do in talking to you, and I think you've explained it really well, is that the technique is in the service of something really musical, and that you're using, I mean, as musicians, we all have to figure out how to play what we feel, you know, what we want to. And
if you hear it in your head and you can't play it,
exactly.
Is your excuse going to be, well, you know, I could say more with 2 notes than my ass?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, so you can say that on
my
the BBC.
ass.
That's
you know,
okay. Yeah.
How about saying it with 20 notes and just if you have that impulse as a player? I mean, did anyone ever say that to John Coltrane or Charlie Barker? They couldn't.
they'd probably get bunched out.
Something like that. I mean, I know in Jersey we do that.
Yeah, right. Well, good.
But, when it calls for 2 notes, then it's 2 notes. I mean, a lot of my compositions in the last 15 years were very sentimental pieces.
Yes, indeed.
And very much composed, and, it's just that one element that sometimes the older critic might still remember and didn't listen to the last 15, 20 records.
Exactly.
There's 24 records now.
Exactly. Well, that's a good start.
Some of them aren't that educated as to what I was doing, so
that's
they
right.
point out one little element.
Well, let me then. I usually ask everybody this, and it's always a contentious question, so I like to ask it. What do you think about jazz radio in America?
Oh, God. Great question. Jazz radio went to the way of easy listening, super boring jazz, which is not jazz, actually. And now it's even worse. Now it's just vocalists, along the lines of Diana Krall and people like that. And nothing against it. It's just that they call themselves cool jazz. Well, it has nothing to do with cool jazz. Okay, so it's really become a kind of background music for people that are on their way to work or while they're working, because it doesn't interfere with your work. You see, so it's great for advertisers. Advertisers can get their product displayed all day because the listener doesn't have the need to turn off the radio to distract them from their work. So it's a good thing for business. And that's where jazz radio went, or so-called jazz radio. And then you have the other extreme, which is like the public kind of stations that are very little listened to and play the straight-ahead jazz or old blues. And you have very little in the way of listener response because there's not that many people that listen to it. And then you have this whole giant middle ground that's been void for a lot of years now of some dynamite music that just never gets played until now. Now we have, thank God, satellite radio. And people like myself and Weather Report and all the Weather Report and all the Chick and all the Frank Zappa, and some Gentle Giant, and like it's just like playing stuff that you just go, yeah, wow, we're back. And they play my new record. I mean, but on like 4 or 5 different stations all the time. So radio now is exciting again. And now I'm finding stuff, whether it's new or old, that I never heard before. And with traditional radio, the way it was, if we're talking about jazz radio, or rock radio even, you'd hear something and you go, well, what was that? That was cool. Who's that? I wonder. And you'd never know. Because they'll play like 4 or 5 tracks after, and then they don't back announce. But on satellite radio in the States, which is going to dominate and blow away FM, you just look at the readout on the where the numbers are, and it gives the name of the artist and the song at the moment it's being played.
Now, it seems to me that, unfortunately, people can't listen to that in their cars.
Yeah. In the cars.
But they can listen to it in their cars?
In the cars.
Really?
It's killer.
Fantastic.
I live in my car now.
Okay.
I mean, I go out in the driveway. Well, I have to get one for the house, of course. But now I go out in the driveway because it's in my car, and I just sit there all the time. And they even have a soundtrack channel.
Right.
Called Cinemagic, it's called. And you're listening to the CD quality of like some of the greatest soundtracks, but 24 hours.
Well, great. I look
with
forward to
readouts, so you can figure out who it is. I'm now buying records again because of this kind of format.
Do you know anything about the actual, are there any statistics or studies being done to find out if satellite radio is resulting in record sales? I mean, apart from you going out and buying records.
I didn't. I'm going to look into that.
Because that's an interesting one.
Because I'm looking to endorse it big time.
Because, I mean, of course, you're
it's
on,
growing,
you're
leaps
on
and
the
bounds.
only radio show in England that plays a wide variety of everything. Of course, New Jazz Standards, thank you very much. That's a plug. But the deal is that, I always say to people at the ends of my show, I say, go out, if you like the records you've heard, go out and buy them, because it's the only way, good music is going to survive.
If they heard it and they liked it and you announced it, then that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But more often, the commercials in the United States took place and took more importance, and you get very little DJ interaction as to who the artist is and what's being played, because they can care less.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I started doing this, because I was so pissed off with listening to other DJs who never announced records and didn't know anything about them.
No, they don't.
And I figured,
and they're told what to play.
Yeah.
See, it's, in your case, you know, you have a passion for what you're doing. In the States, it's gotten where it's just consulting firms telling the station owners what the DJs must play,
Yes.
and they're all frustrated. They don't want to play that stuff, you know.
But they do.
They have to
Yeah.
because it's a job. But and now XM radio is like FM was in the beginning, only better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true, because when I interviewed Bob James here, he said the same thing. He said, look, on my albums, I can only put 1 or 2 tracks on my records that I actually sort of enjoy, that are my creative kind of things, and the rest of it I have to adhere to what broadcast architecture tells me I have to do to get on the radio.
That's like poison to my ears.
It is, and it's terrible to
hear.
A great artist like that would have
I will never do that.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to have to do that on these type of records that I make.
Well, luckily now you're with Telarc, who are a nice company, and they let you record nice records.
Right.
Good. And all you people in Radioland should go out and buy them right away.
Right away.
Aldi Meola, thank
Flesh
you
on
very
flesh.
much. Flesh on flesh. Let's press the flesh and say thank you and good night.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Good morning, good evening.
All
good
right,
afternoon.
so I got to run.
Okay, let's go. You got to get to your next appointment, and I've got to go have my nose buffed. Well, he may be gone, but we've got something we recorded earlier. Yes, it's Aldi Meola playing his marvelous guitar, and he's going to play for us live in the studio his wonderful piece, Rhapsody. Are you a long-distance truck driver who'll be driving across the country, stopping only at a filthy diner to relieve yourself of the interminable boredom? Great! While you're driving, join me, Richard Niles, for my podcast, Radio Richard. Intriguing interviews and peripatetic performances from master musicians like Randy Brecker, Wayne Shorter, Nile Rodgers, and the Yellow Jackets. And even if you don't drive a truck, I can guarantee that Radio Richard will spin your tires. Don't miss a moment of the fun. Subscribe to
Radio Richard.